I know, Axie. Do you think I wanted it to happen like that? You know that's not me. But we couldn't let him stop us. His dark eyes, with their heavy lashes, searched my face. He wanted to be sure I knew he'd done the only thing he could. I don't want this to end, he said. Not yet. Do you? I shook my head. I wanted to go on like this with him forever, except I wanted more kissing and less crying of yellow wildflowers. I held my camera at arm's length and took a picture of us squinting and grinning on top of the world. We might have hiked back down then, but I turned and saw an old plastic sled half buried in the sand. I pointed and Robinson's eyes lit up. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? I asked, but I knew he was, so I didn't wait for an answer. I climbed onto the front of the sled, and Robinson stood behind me, his hands on my back. Sample. Robinson, I think I loved you from the first moment I saw you. But I was high on painkillers that day, so I loved everyone. When I look at you, I see a better version of myself. Wait, so I want to kiss myself? I don't know what I'd do without you in my life. Not steal cars? It was stupidly, infuriatingly impossible. No wonder I hadn't written anything decent in ages. I bit my lip hard. We had no doctor. And when we got one, I knew what it would mean. Blood workups, fine needle aspiration biopsies, positron emission tomography scans. The thought of going through this again made me want to run and hide. Welcome to small-town America, Axie, Robinson said, where the bowling alley and the Elks Lodge have larger staffs than the hospital. Don't worry, the doctor is coming, I said. It was real. He said to me, You look like shit. I feel like shit. Let's be friends. And just like that, we were. That's how magnetic Robinson was. He could tell you that you looked terrible, and you'd still adore him. Robinson was sicker than I was, but he didn't act like it. He had a rare kind of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma called Burkitt's. The non means it's worse. He was frowning. He palpitated Robinson's stomach, and Robinson inhaled sharply, wincing. I had to look away then. I couldn't bear to see him in pain. After several minutes, Dr. Ellsworth spoke. I'm going to send you to get a CT scan and an X-ray. There are abnormalities. Just because I was expecting to hear something like this didn't mean it didn't knock the wind out of me. I drew in a wobbly toward the door. I'm going to give you some intravenous antibiotics, and I'm going to encourage you to think very hard about those tests I mentioned. I don't like tests, Robinson said. I always fail them. Where are your parents, young man? I glanced at Robinson. That was a question whose answer I didn't know either. Robinson turned away. I'm a legal adult, he said. Do you want just that red? The red of Valentine's, of blood. Faint classical music came from invisible speakers. I sat down on a bench. My parents had taken me to church about 3 times before they lost interest in shushing Carol Ann and me every other second. Now I was the only one in the room, so I didn't quite know what to do with myself. I put my face in my hands. Anyone who poked a head in would think I was praying. I thought of Carol Ann and Robin Hoofley. He placed my backpack at the foot of my bed and held out his hand to help me up. His fingers were warm and reassuring, as if I were the sick one. Robinson was always so careful with me. I remembered walking the long halls of the Portland hospital with him, the two of us so weak we shuffled like octogenarians. Octo what? He'd said. Octogenarians, people in their 80s. He laughed, too. Now is the time, Axie, I thought. Carpe diem. I reached across him to his far hand and turned him toward me. I have something to tell you, I whispered. I'm all ears, he whispered back. He waited silently, giving my eyes time to search his face. His high forehead, his deep-set eyes, his full mouth. I opened my lips, but nothing came out. He patted the seat. "Come here, Axie. Sit beside me." I went around to the other side and clambered onto the truck's high bench seat. Robinson put his arm around my shoulders, and I buried my face in his flannel shirt. It smelled like the hospital, but underneath that, like him. Like soap and pine and boy. Of course, I wanted to leave. I wanted to be alone with Robinson again. I wanted more, or especially because Robinson wasn't listening. "And then there's you," I said to Robinson's sleeping silhouette. "Where are your parents? Aren't they worried about you? Do they have any idea where you are?" When I'd met Robinson in the cancer ward, he'd brushed off all talk of his family. No sad-eyed father sat with him while he got his chemo. No weeping mother held his hand while he was bombarded with radioactive particles. His eyes had that faraway look in them again. "I guess you come by your car obsession naturally then," I continued. I wanted him to keep talking because he was always so tight-lipped about his family that I knew almost nothing about them. "My dad always said his first baby was his 1967 Mustang," Robinson offered. "So, you grew up here?" I asked. Robinson began to whistle that Sufjan Stevens song about a problem then. "You guys aren't from around here, are you?" Robinson and I both looked up, startled. Guilty people are jumpy people, I guess. But it was only our waiter, who looked like he'd had a shot or two of the moonshine himself. "No, sir," Robinson said, polite as can be. The waiter pointed a finger at us. "Well, when you go back home, tell your friends how the Big D is doing just fine. I know you went and saw the..."
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.